Chapter 12 Acts of Bravery. At school, Mrs. Nuckluck had a big announcement. As you all know, the Frog Moon Festival we held this Saturday, she said. Each year we hold the festival to scare away winter so that spring will come to the North Woods. Mrs. Nuckluck wrapped her feather cloak tighter around her body. Finally. Hugo loved the Frog Moon Festival. It was always lots of fun. The squidges wore scary masks, and there were races and games and loads of good food, like walnut pie and mushroom casserole and acorn butter cookies and gooseberry pie. As usual, one class will perform a special ceremony at the Frog Moon Festival. Who knows what that is? Mrs. Nuckluck asked. Izzy's hand shot up. Acts of Bravery, he said. Very good, Izzy. And do you know why we perform acts of bravery? Gigi raised her hand, and Mrs. Nuckluck called on her. It's a rite of passage. It shows that we are brave enough to become big Sasquatches and have more responsibility. Very good, Gigi. Mrs. Nuckluck looked around at all the squidges with an excited gleam in her eyes. Well, class, at this year's Frog Moon Festival, our class will be performing the acts of bravery. Some squidges cheered, but others looked nervous. The squidges who performed acts of bravery had to do something they were afraid to do. Malcolm raised his hand. I'll fight a bear, he said. Think again, said Mrs. Nuckluck. Okay, I'll shove a stick up my nose, Malcolm said. You did that the other day. It didn't end well for you, did it, Malcolm? Said Mrs. Nuckluck with raised eyebrows. Then she glanced around at the rest of the class and said, For the next few days, you can all think about what you would like to do for your act of bravery. In the meantime, we will start making our scary masks. Mrs. Nuckluck went to the art closet and took out long strips of bark, pots of glue made from pine tree resin, paints made of red and yellow river clay, paintbrushes, and other bits and bobs collected from the woods. Remember, everyone, she said as she handed out the supplies. Your mask must be very scary. The class got right to work. Hugo started to make a mask that looked like a shark with a long pointy snout and a wide open mouth full of sharp teeth. What's your act of bravery going to be? Hugo asked Gigi. Her mask looked like a crazy bird with a short fat beak and black crow feathers glued all over. I might let my Uncle Clive's pet rat sit on my head, said Gigi. He's disgusting. The rat, I mean, not Uncle Clive. What about you? Hugo shrugged. I'm not sure yet. As he worked, he tried to keep his mind on an act of bravery, but his thoughts kept drifting back to Boone. Hey, Gigi, Hugo said after a few minutes. Do you think a Sasquatch could be friends with a human? No, said Gigi right away as she painted the beak on her mask. But you didn't even think about it, Hugo protested. I don't have to. It's impossible. Humans either want to kill Sasquatches or capture them. Hugo didn't think Boone wanted to kill or capture him. My grandfather thinks humans are probably just like Sasquatches. Some are good and some are bad, Hugo said. Gigi put down her paintbrush and looked at him. When have you ever heard of a good human, Hugo? 13. 100% true. Hugo sat in his room trying to do his homework, but he just kept thinking about what Gigi had said. Could it be true that all humans were bad? Gigi did always seem to know everything, and in all the stories Hugo had ever heard about humans, they were doing bad things to Sasquatches. Still, he couldn't believe that Boone was that kind of human. Just then he heard a clink-a-tink-tink sound. He looked down at the little stream in his room. Sailing through the hole in the wall was his little boat with the jar clinking inside it. Eagerly, Hugo picked up the jar, opened the lid, and shook out the note. It said, Dear Hugo, No, I have never been to Bora Bora or Atlantic City, but I have been to Cleveland. I ate a good chili dog there. Guess what? I live in the North Woods too, on the banks of Ripple Worm River. I live with my grandma in a blue house with a red roof. Here's what it looks like. No one lives around us for miles and miles. Sometimes it gets pretty lonely. I have something else to tell you. It's a secret, though. Last week, when I was in the woods, I closed my eyes and made a wish. I wished that I would see a Bigfoot. When I opened my eyes, there he was. He was huge and covered with hair. He looked like this. Do you believe me? I hope so, because it's 100% true. Boone. P.S. I'm really glad we're friends. Hugo. So Boone was the human Hugo had seen by the hemlock tree. Hugo looked at the drawing of the Sasquatch covered in twigs and leaves. That was a drawing of him. He thought of Boone's funny sticking up hair and his eyes that looked like a Sasquatch's eyes. There was nothing scary about Boone. There was nothing bad about Boone. Gigi might be right most of the time, but this time she was wrong. 100% wrong. Hugo wrote back straight away. Dear Boone, I do believe you because the Bigfoot that you saw in the woods was me. Hugo. P.S. We are called Sasquatches, not Bigfoot.